Let's be honest, even if it makes you uncomfortable. There's a part of you that's been tamed, like a wild animal trapped in a cage. You feel it, even if you can't put it into words. Something inside is missing. It's not money, success, or even love. It's something deeper, more primal. Something you've either forgotten or were taught to ignore. Every time you feel desire, you push it away, distract yourself. You were told this was normal, healthy, human. But what if they lied to you? What if the energy you're burning through so quickly is actually the key to unlocking a power you can't even imagine? This isn't cheap spirituality or religious morality, it's deep psychology. It's your shadow, your instincts, the hidden message inside your impulses. Carl Jung warned about this decades ago, but hardly anyone understood. What you don't bring into awareness ends up shaping your destiny. And if you keep ignoring it, your destiny isn't freedom, it's emptiness. Look around you. Do you see the widespread anxiety, the existential boredom, the lack of purpose? That's no coincidence. It's the result of a society that has trivialized sexual energy, reducing it to mere entertainment. We've been trained to discharge it, not transform it, to scatter it, not transcend it. But Jung discovered something revolutionary. This energy isn't just a bodily urge, it's the fuel of your soul. When you suppress it out of fear, you fall ill. When you waste it without awareness, you feel hollow. But when you learn to contain it, to channel it, you awaken something wild, something the ancients call the inner fire, a force the modern world fears because it can't control it. And here's the unsettling truth. Have you felt it? Those times when you abstained, even by accident, days or weeks without sex, and suddenly something shifts? Your gaze sharpens, your voice grows firmer, your choices become clearer. You rise with a strength you didn't know existed inside you. But you didn't connect the dots. Thought it was just coincidence? It wasn't. It was your primal power activating, your libido being redirected. And this is exactly what Jung explained with brutal precision. Sexual energy isn't destroyed, it's transformed. What you do with it shapes who you become. Ever wondered why moments of greatest creativity, intuition, and personal strength often happen during periods of abstinence? It's not magic, it's pure psychodynamics. Jung spoke of individuation, the journey to become your true self. And that journey demands sacrifice. It requires you to look inward, face your desires without blindly obeying them, because there lies your shadow, the part you deny, repress, yet paradoxically can set you free. But beware, this truth isn't comfortable. It forces you to see how much of the most sacred thing you've wasted. Every time you gave into instant gratification, you gave up on yourself, your potential, your power. Do you know what happens when you can't control your impulses? Someone else will control them for you. Jung understood this well. The person who doesn't master their libido becomes its slave. And a slave to libido is a slave to the world. We live in a culture that doesn't want powerful men or women, it wants consumers. And consumers don't think, they just react. That's why you're bombarded with sexual stimuli every second. Because as long as you're distracted by immediate pleasure, you won't look inside, question your reality, or awaken. But what if you decide to resist? What if you refuse to follow the script they gave you? What if you choose to channel that energy towards something greater? What Jung proposes isn't abstinence as punishment, it's transmutation as liberation. It's aligning your life force with your purpose. It's transforming carnal desire into creative drive. It's going from victim of your passions to architect of your destiny. And that, my friend, isn't theory, it's brutal practice. It's inner alchemy. It's a psychic rebellion, not against sex, but against its trivialization, against the idea that you can't live without it. Do you realize the level of dependence this implies? When you become a slave to desire, everything else becomes secondary. But when you master that energy, you become someone the world can no longer control. That's the truth I wanted to bring you today. A truth that's uncomfortable but liberating. Jung didn't speak to the complacent. He spoke to those willing to break inside, face their demons, tame them, and turn them into strength. Because there is no greater power than the one who is no longer a victim of themselves. Get ready, because what's coming next isn't a feel-good message. It's a wake-up call, a disruption, a challenge to everything you thought you knew about desire, sex, and even yourself. So listen closely, because what I'm about to tell you won't be found in any self-help book or shallow personal development speech flooding the internet. Jung didn't just talk about abstinence in physical terms. He spoke about the psychic process of sublimation. What does that mean? It means transforming a raw, primal urge into something that feeds your higher consciousness. But this isn't mysticism, it's deep psychology. The very energy that drags you toward easy pleasure, if you don't give in, if you don't waste it, will start searching for new ways to express itself. And here's where it gets fascinating. This energy seeks out art, creativity, purpose. You can't turn it off or cut it out. You can only learn to guide it. So here's the question that truly matters. Where are you directing your energy? Because if you don't redirect it, it will consume you from the inside. It becomes anxiety, frustration, compulsions. Jung made it brutally clear. What's repressed doesn't disappear, it distorts. The shadow you refuse to face becomes not only your fate but also disease. The desire you deny without understanding transforms into self-sabotage. That's why it's not about suppressing sexual desire as something dirty. It's about recognizing it as a symbolic language. Behind every impulse, there's a message from your unconscious. It's not really after sex. It wants expansion, wholeness, for you to integrate the parts you forgot when you followed imposed rules. And this is where the archetype of the inner warrior comes in. Jung spoke of the need to confront your inner dragon, the part of you craving instant gratification, demanding pleasure without commitment, escaping emptiness with artificial distractions. This dragon isn't slain, it's tamed. If you learn to resist giving in every time your body screams. You know what happens when you hold back, when you decide not to respond as usual. A threshold opens, something shifts. The energy that would have died in a brief moment of ecstasy starts to circulate through your thoughts. It becomes clarity, purpose, instinct, and most importantly, willpower. Here lies the real problem. You lost your will, not from weakness, but from overstimulation. Every time you give in, you train your mind to obey, not resist. And every act of surrender to immediate desire is a vote of confidence and emptiness. Want to know why you can't focus? Why you procrastinate? Why you feel disconnected? Because you've poured out the best of yourself again and again until you no longer feel whole. Because every impulse indulged without awareness is 1 gram less of your integrity. Now look at the pattern. What do those who transcend the ordinary do? Monks, artists, warriors, leaders, visionaries, they all went through periods of deep abstinence, not necessarily sexual, but energetic. They learned to close doors to open portals. They came to understand that desire is a compass, but it should never be the captain. They sat with the uncomfortable silence that follows resisting an impulse, and they survived it. Now ask yourself, how many times have you crossed that threshold? How often have you stared desire in the face without backing down? Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Restraint isn't repression, it's strategy. It's preparation. It's the ability to master the fire without extinguishing it. Every urge held back is energy still yours to use. Jung was clear. Those who can sublimate their libido have the power to change the world. Do you really grasp what that means? It means that every time you choose not to fall, you're building a strength the system can't quantify. Because the system needs you weak, predictable, easily triggered. But the one who practices restraint becomes unpredictable. And unpredictability is the only true freedom. But let's go deeper. Ever heard of anima and animus? These are the inner representations of the feminine and masculine energies we all carry. Jung taught that unless a man integrates his anima, or a woman, her animus, they'll spend their lives chasing outside what they haven't yet found within. And how does this lack of integration show up? In sexual obsession, in uncontrollable attraction, in emotional dependency, in that endless search for something you think is missing but isn't. Nothing is missing. You just haven't learned to listen to your unconscious. You're seeking in bodies what can only be discovered within your soul. And isn't that a brutal realization? Lust, at its core, is your soul's desperate attempt to heal. That's why abstinence can be revolutionary, not because of morality, but because of self-awareness. Because when you step away from that external cycle, you begin to listen. You begin to see. You begin to understand. And what do you uncover? That your desire wasn't for another body, but for your own inner counterpart. That what you were longing for wasn't physical contact, but inner union. That your libido wasn't calling for pleasure, it was calling for awakening. And that changes everything. So no, this isn't about martyrdom. It's not about rejecting your humanity. It's about reclaiming it. It's about guarding your energy like it's gold, because it is. Every time you hold back, you're cultivating something sacred. You're building a temple within yourself, a place no one can violate, manipulate, or drag you away from. You're giving your soul the space it needs to rise. And when it does, nothing in this world can stop you, because you no longer depend. You no longer chase. You no longer search. You walk with purpose, with a clear gaze, and with a heart on fire. Believe me, this shows. It's felt. And that's where real power begins. Not the loud kind, not the flashy kind, the kind that holds its ground quietly. Power rooted in self-restraint, in the invisible strength of someone who has chosen not to give in to easy pleasure because they've traded it for something far more meaningful. Now that you've made it this far, tell me, do you still think this is just about sex? Do you still believe this is just about avoiding something physical? It's not. This is about something deeper. It's about power, about personal sovereignty, about taking back the reins you didn't even realize you gave away. Because here comes the truth very few are willing to face. Your body is just the surface, but your energy is sacred ground. And every time you choose not to act like a trained animal, you rewrite your story. You break generations of conditioning. You stop being part of the herd that just consumes, reacts, survives, without ever asking why. But make no mistake, this path of self-control is not easy. It's lonely. No one claps for your discipline. No one celebrates your silence. No one sees the power you're building until it shows itself. And when it does, it's too late for them to catch up, because by then, you've already become something else. You're no longer the same. Your eyes carry something different. Your presence becomes heavy, magnetic, hard to explain. You don't need to say much. You don't need to justify anything. Your energy does all the speaking. And that can't be faked, because it's real. Because it comes from within. Because it's forged in withheld fire, in desire that's been redirected, in shadows that have been made conscious. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to prove it. People can feel it. Even if they don't understand what it is, they feel it. And when that happens, there's no going back. You've tasted what it's like to walk unchained. You've seen what it means to not depend on anything or anyone to feel whole. You've touched the most addictive freedom there is, the freedom of not needing .so. Do you see it now? What they sold you as freedom was actually a cage in disguise. A prison made of pleasures. A cell with the door wide open but bars you couldn't see. Bars made of need, of impulse, of emptiness. And do you know what happens when you finally break that dependency? Everything changes. You begin to see the world with new eyes. The surface no longer dazzles you. The urgency no longer drives you. Desire stops being the master and becomes the servant. You choose when to act. You choose what to give yourself to. You decide which energy is truly worth your time. That kind of awareness is its own form of enlightenment, not the mystical kind, not the saintly kind, but the kind that makes you fully human, whole, self-governed. And that, right there, is the rarest thing in the world today. So now I leave you with a question, one that only you can answer. Will you keep pouring yourself into impulses you don't even understand? Or will you finally begin to fill yourself with yourself? Because in that choice, yes, right there, lies the difference between a life with direction and one that's just drifting. Between a soul that burns with purpose and one that fades out without ever having truly shined. And if you've made it this far, it's not a coincidence. You're one of the few who are ready to hear this. One of the few who can still reclaim their fire. So do it. Don't let these words remain just theory. Let them become action. Let them shape your every decision, especially those moments where you have to choose between what's easy and what's powerful, between what's instant and what's eternal. And now, if this message stirred something in you, if it touched a part of you that others never dared to reach, subscribe. But don't do it for me. Do it for yourself. Because we're not here to entertain, we're here to awaken. And if you want more of this, if you're ready to dig where no one else dares, then this is your place. Leave me one sentence in the comments. Just one. A sentence that says everything without needing to explain anything. Right. The fire doesn't die, it transforms. That's how I'll know you're one of the few who won't settle anymore. One of the few who are ready to own their energy. And now, I'll leave you, but not the same way we began. I leave you with a question that might haunt you. The next time desire calls your name, don't answer right away. Look at it, listen to it, and ask, does this empty me or build me? Because that question, though small, might just change your destiny. I'll see you at the next level. Or not. You decide. If this spoke to you, if it stirred something you didn't even know was asleep, don't keep it to yourself. Share it. Pass this message on to someone else who needs to remember they can still reclaim their fire. And if you felt that this is your place, subscribe, not because I asked, but because deep down, you know you're ready to go further. This journey doesn't end here. It's only just beginning.